Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 10 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're teaching your Raspberry Pi who's boss. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice, no sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this series of video lessons. And because of their support, we're able to offer it to you for free. Now, we will be using the Sunfounder Ultimate Raspberry Pi Kit in this series of lessons. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot easier if we are working on identical hardware. Hopefully, most of you guys already have your gear. If you don't yet, look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon. You can hop over there and get your equipment ordered. But enough of this shameless advertising. Let's talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you my solution to the homework assignment that I gave you in lesson number 9. And what that homework assignment was to create a dimmable LED based on 2 push buttons. One button dims the LED and the other button makes the LED get brighter. So you can sit and press to go dim, 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 or press the other button to go bright, bright, bright. Okay. How many of you guys were successful in doing this? If you were successful, comment down below. I am legend. If you were not successful, comment down below. I folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair. Hopefully most of you guys were able to do this because really it was putting together little pieces that we've learned in earlier lessons. There's nothing really brand new about this. You're just sort of bringing together things that you've already learned. And it's kind of good exercise to do that every once in a while. So I hope a number of you guys actually had success with this. But enough of this banter and chit chat back and forth. Let's jump in and let's see if we can get this work going. And so the first thing that you are going to need to do is you're going to need to build your circuit. Let me do a tad bit of Windows management here, if you'll give me just a second. Okay, I think that's good. Now I'll get out of your way. Every once in a while, I just got to take a second to clean up a few things. All right, take a chance to get a swig of coffee. Now, you don't have to build this exact circuit, but it needs to be something similar. And I've got my schematic up here up top. You can see that I have 2 buttons. Okay, the left button is the dim button. The left leg of the left button goes to pin 40, which is the lower right pin, the GPIO pin 40, lower right. And then the next button, my brighten button, it goes to the pin right above it, GPIO 38. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Then you can see that I'm bringing the ground down here to a ground wire through this, to the ground rail through this very small yellow jumper wire. And similarly, button number 2, I'm bringing down to the ground rail through this very small jumper. Hey, you guys, if you like these little jumpers, I just really like them. I think they're about $12 or $13. I've got a link down below. It just really allows you to build things cleaner. And again, I kind of wish Sunfounder would throw some of these things into the next version of their ultimate kit. But this is just a really neat kit to have where you can get all these small jumper wires. So I've got the first button jump down to the ground rail. Now I've got the second button jump down to the ground rail. Now it's not the ground rail just because I call it the ground rail. It's the ground rail because I have this wire tied into that row and coming over to pin 39, which is the lower left. And so I established the ground rail. Then the control pin, the GPIO pin for the LED going to the long leg of the LED comes over to pin 37. It's the one above that ground. It's the one above the lower left on the left. Okay. And then the short leg goes to the 330 ohm resistor. I've kind of gone ahead and plugged the right leg of the resistor, of the current limiting resistor, into the ground rail. Okay, so that should be pretty straightforward for you guys to build. Hopefully you've got this or something very similar already put together. And so now we need to switch over where you can get a code view, because I think we are ready to jump in and start coding this thing. I need to see which is a suitable view there. I think this will be a suitable view. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and move this over here, and now you can get a nice view of my coding, and you can get a nice view of the circuit in the Raspberry Pi all at the same time. Okay, I think we are ready to crank this thing out, and a lot of this I'm going to go pretty quickly because I think you should be pretty familiar with the stuff that I am going to be showing you here. So let me get in a good typing position here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new program, Nano, and we're going to go down into our Python folder, and then I'll just call it mydim.py, and boom, a fresh new Python program just waiting to be written. So what are we going to need to do? The first thing we're going to need to do is import our old friend, Mr. RP uppercase little I, and then GPIO. We will import that as GPIO just because it kind of makes sense. And then from time, we're going to import sleep because we will need a delay in here. I'm going to go ahead and start setting up some variables. My DT for delay time, I'll put it at 0.1 seconds. Okay, and now I've got to set up my pins. My button 1 pin, remember that went to where? That went over to pin 40 lower right, so I'll set that as 40. And then my B2 was the one above it, which is pin 38. And then we're also going to have to now start thinking about, if we have these buttons, we've got to be able to measure what their state is. And if I use pull up resistors in the up position, it's going to be in state 1. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set that up so when the program runs the first time, it already has a value there. So I'm just going to say B1 state, and I'll just set that, initialize that B1 state. I'll initialize that to 1. And remember, what are we looking for? For a dim or brighten event, that is when the button goes from down to up. So I got to keep track of where I am now and where I was last time. I got to kind of keep track of that breadcrumb. So I'm going to have a B1 state old, and that's where it was last time, and we're just going to initialize that to a 1. Now we do the same thing for button 2, so B2 state is also 1, and then B2 state is state old is also equal to 1. So those are all initialized. That looks good. Now don't forget our friend Mr. LED pin, and Mr. LED pin was pin 37. That's lower left, 1 up. The lower left is ground, and 1 up from that is the pin 37. So those are all set up. Now remember, we are going to be doing PWM, and so we're going to need a duty cycle. So I'm going to go ahead and initialize my duty cycle to 99. Now you can't tell the difference between 99 and 100, and just remember, with the PWM, you can't PWM at 100. Now you can PWM at 0, but you don't want to go above 99. So you can go from 0 to 99, but it won't work if you try to apply a 100% duty cycle to this. Important thing to know. Okay, now I think we're ready to start setting up our pins. We're going to do a GPIO.set mode. And what do we want to do? GPIO. How are we going to number our pins with the board? With the board layout, which is the physical layout, which just means when I say pin 37, I mean physical pin 37, and that makes life a whole lot easier. Now I'm going to do my GPIO dot set up, and what I'm going to set up, I'm going to set up B1, pin B1, and that is a GPIO dot in. And remember, I want to put in that pull up resistor, so I'm going to say pull up down. And that is going to be equal to what? GPIO dot pull up down, and we're going to put it up. So that's going to put that internal pull up resistor. So in my circuit, I don't have to have a pull up resistor. Hope that makes sense. Okay, we'll do the whole same thing here. Set up, this time B2, GPIO dot in, pull up down equal GPIO dot pullup down, and we'll make this an up as well, like that. Okay, that looks good. Now we need to go ahead and set up our LED pin like that, and we're going to set up the LED pin, and it's going to be a GPIO dot what dot out. Okay, so now those are set up. Now we got to do a little business with the PWM. So I'm going to create my PWM object. So I'm going to call it my PWM. You can call yours whatever you want. That's going to be a GPIO dot PWM. And then where do we want to PWM? We want to PWM the LED pin. Okay, and then what frequency do we want? Let's set it at 100 Hertz. All right, so now that is good. Let's go ahead and start it. My PWM dot start, and we just give it the initial DC, which is what, 99, which means that when we run this thing, it is going to come on full blast. All right, that looks good. I think that looks good. So now we have all that business done. Now we need to go ahead and set up our try and accept so that we can exit out of this cleanly and do our cleanup. And so I'm going to go ahead and do the accept. And we want to jump down to the accept when we get a keyboard interrupt like that. Okay, and then we're going to come down here, and I probably am going to need to do a couple of things here. I will probably need to go ahead and stop. I will need to stop my PWM, so I'm going to do a my PWM dot stop. I would think that just cleaning up would take care of it, but sometimes I've convinced myself that if I do a cleanup without a stop, it seems like sometimes it keeps running. So I'll do the stop and then the GPIO dot clean up like that. And then I always like to put something just to indicate that it's actually been down here. And so I'll print GPIO good to go. GPIO, good to go. I kind of like that. Okay, so now I've got all that done. Now up here in my try, now this is where the real action happens. And so up here in my try, the first thing I'm going to need to have is a while loop. And so I'll have while true. When is true, true, true? That's always true. So all of our action's going to be happening here inside of this while loop until we Control C the keyboard interrupt, and then it'll jump down to the accept. So we just need to start by reading the two buttons. So I'm going to say B2 state, B1 state, and that's going to be equal to GPIO dot input. And what are we going to input? We're going to input from B1, button 1. Okay, similarly, we're going to read the second button, B2 state is equal to GPIO dot input, and we're going to read from B2 this time. So I've read B1, I've read B2. Now, when do we actually have a registered event on the button? When it goes from being down to up. So you press it down. When it's just sitting there, it's going to be in state 1. You press it down, it'll go to state 0. And then if it goes back to 1, then you've got sort of an actionable event. And so we're going to have to keep track of where we are now and where we were last time. And what is it that we care about? We care if previously, which is B1 state old, if last time it was equal what? If it was equal 0, meaning the button was down, and B1 state this time, the B1 state this time is equal 1. So when it goes from being a 0 to a 1, boom, that's when you have an actionable event there. And in that case, what do we want to do? Well, what we can do is we can say that our duty cycle, kind of, you could say duty cycle is equal to duty cycle minus 10. Now remember, this is our dim. Okay, this is our dim button. This is our dim button, so we're going to go down by 10. You could go down by 1, but then you're going to sit in there having to hammer on that button for anything to happen. And I kind of think 10 would give you about 10 steps over the full range. I think that would be about right, but you can kind of play with things and you can do it different. And oh my goodness, have I been covering up? Okay, I'm sorry. There. All right, now you can see it. I know that you don't enjoy it when I'm in your way. DC is DC minus 10. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a print in here. Print a dim event. And why am I going to do that? It'll just help us debug, like, what if I'm pressing the button and nothing's happening? Well, is it at least getting in this if statement? So I think that just kind of helps us debug if we need it. Now, what I'll also say is if B2 state old equals 0 and B2 state equal 1, that means I've had a bright event happen. And in that case, what would I do to the duty cycle? Duty cycle is equal to duty cycle plus 10. So it would make it brighter, or at least it's queuing up to be brighter. It doesn't do anything until I actually apply it. And then here I'm going to print a bright event. So then it should print it and then it should do it. All right. Now there's a couple of little things that you got to think about. One is, remember, you can crash the program if you change the duty cycle to 100% or more than 100%. So we got to make sure that that doesn't happen, because there's always that guy that's going to sit there and just pound that button until the program crashes. This line of code, it's for you, and I think you know who you are, okay? And so what I will say is, I will say if the duty cycle is greater than 99, if it gets greater than 99, then just say DC equal 99, like that. And similarly, I'm going to say if the duty cycle is less than 0, if the duty cycle is less than 0, then I'm going to say the duty cycle equal 0. And I did find out, like I said a minute ago, you can apply 0. It seems like it takes that all right. Okay, so now what do I need to do? Now I need to apply that duty cycle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my PWM, okay, my PWM, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change duty cycle, to what? I'm going to change it to DC. Now I don't have to put a pin number there, because when I created my PWM, I told it what the pin was. You're kind of thinking, do I need to put a pin there? No, because that was when you created the object. You already did that. Now we got to do a little bookkeeping. We got to drop our 2 breadcrumbs, so next time through, after we read the button, we'll remember what it was this time. And so I'm going to say B1 state old, B1 state old is equal to B1 state not barbecue, B1 state, and then B2 state old is equal to B2 state. Does that look right? I think that's right. Now we got to remember our delay. And so we'll say sleep by how much? The DT, the delay time. I think that's pretty good. How many mistakes did you guys catch me make in here? All right, I'm going to Control X, yes, enter. Right now I'm going to come in and I am, instead of nanoing that, I am going to Python it, right? Wrong! We're going to Python 3 it. I feel terrible. What was it? Lesson 5. I did that using Python after warning you not to do it. Okay, I need everyone to hold their breath. All eyes on the LED. Hold your breath. All right, boom. Look at that. Good news is the LED came on and it's sitting there. Program didn't crash. This is encouraging. Better take a swig of coffee. I better come up a little bit more life size so you can see my excitement if this thing works. So we're going to come in and we're going to try to dim it. So I'm going to press the button one time. Look at that dim event, and it got dimmer. And then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then 8, and then 9, and then 10. Okay, and now it is off. And if I come in, up, 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 Shazam! Who's your magic man? Me. I'm the magic man. Okay, so that was kind of fun. One thing I'm seeing, now I really shouldn't do this, but I'm going to digress. So I'm going to do a Control-C to get out of there. Oh, okay, I misspelled interrupt. So that is good. I will come down there and fix that. But that means the next time I run it, keyboard interrupt. I swear I pressed the T there, and it was this little dinky keyboard that messed me up. I mean, first of all, how well could it work with invisible keys, right? How well could it work with invisible keys? But I'm gonna Control X, yes, enter, and now I'm gonna run it once just to clean it up. I'll get an error because it crashed and it didn't close the thing. So now I'm gonna come down here, and I am going to run it, and yeah, I got the error. Now I'll Control-C, and I got the GPIO good to go, and so now we should be okay. But now I want to show you what I actually want to do. And so this is the thing that I don't like, and that is, if you're watching this, do you see how I get to this level here, a certain level of dim? And do you see how it looks like it is blinking? To you, it looks like it's blinking. That's because there is a synchronization problem. The camera up here is scanning at a certain rate, and the PWM is occurring at a certain rate. And so to my eye, I perceive absolutely no blinking at all, but it must be my 100 hertz frequency isn't good for the camera. So I'm going to see, what if we make a different frequency, and let's just say that we change that, and let's see if we can get rid of that thing that makes the camera think it's blinking. So I'll change it to 1000 hertz, Control-C, yes. Ooh, bad me. Okay, so I'm going to Control X, yes, enter, and now let's try running it, Python 3. Okay, now that does not look like it's blinking. Okay, it's getting dimmer, 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 dimmer. Okay, so you see, by changing that frequency, I've gotten rid of what looks like that blinking. But believe me, at 100 hertz, my eye could not perceive what it looked like you were seeing on the camera. And if you're doing this along with me, I think you'll see that too. It's not blinking, but we'll go for 1000 hertz. Okay, now what do we not like about this? What we don't like about this is if I come all the way down, I'm off, and I go to 1, and already that's a huge change. And 2 I can see, and then 3 I can see, and then 4, and then 5. But already at 5, it's almost full brightness. And so like between 6 and 7, I don't perceive any change. And so what this is showing is this is nonlinear, that between 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, you can't perceive with your eye really any change in brightness, but there's a huge difference in brightness between 1 and 2. So what this means is you want a nonlinear change in that duty cycle, that at the low end you want to make very small changes, and at the high end you want to make large changes, and that way creating sort of a smooth looking dim to bright from 0 to 99. Does that make sense? Did you guys perceive that as well? And so really what you're going to see is, maybe if I nano this, maybe here where I go DC is DC minus 10 and plus 10, that's a linear scale, and really I want more of an exponential scale. So what I could say is, instead of DC going down by 10, what if I cut it by 2? Okay, what if I cut it by 2, a factor of 2, and then here, what if I doubled it and I said times 2? So let's just start at 1. Minimum brightness is 1. Well, if I double 1, what do I get? 2. That's a tiny change as compared to 1 to 10. Now, from 2, what do I do? 4. Still a small change, but a little bit bigger. 4 to 8, 16, 32, 64. Okay. And then from 64, it would go to 128, which you would just make it back to 99. So you see, you're going to go from 60 to 100 in one step. But at the low end, you'll go from 1 to 2. Does that make sense? All right, now the one thing I think I need to do here is I don't think we want to apply a floating point number here. So I think the smart thing would be to make that an int, so that like 3.5 is going to round to 3 and 0.65 is going to round to 0. And so it'll turn it off. And then, you know, you won't end up with floats in there in this thing that wants a, oh, I did it again. I need to have a dollar jar, and I should have to put $1 every time my head covers up my code. Okay, now let's try this. Control C, that Control X, yes, enter. Now let's run it, Python 3. Okay, now it comes up. Now let's watch it. This should go like really down this time. Okay, boom, did you see that? You could perceive the difference between full bright and down by 1, down by 2, down by 3, down by 4, down by 5, down by 6, and now this I think should get close to turning it off. Yeah, off. Now I come back. Now do you see, by using an exponential scale in the code, it makes it look smooth and linear in the real world and what your eye perceives. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, that is good, but what is the problem? We were stuck with like 7 increments just because, well, I go 1, I go 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and then I go to 128, which I've got to round to 99. I've got 7 clicks. What if I wanted a different number of clicks? What if I really wanted to make this elegant? Well, if I really, really wanted to make it elegant, I need to do a little what? I need to do a little math. And so this I'm going to show you because I think it will show you that math is your friend, and we can make this thing sing to our tune and do exactly what we want it to by doing a little bit of math. Okay, so I have that from the last lesson, so we will go ahead and clear that. And now what I will do is I will kind of just do a little math here. Now what we said was this last time what we sort of said was, well, the duty cycle is equal to like the duty cycle times 2, or if we pressed it again times 2, or if we pressed it again times 2. You can't see that, can you? Another $1 in the dollar jar. Okay, so it was sort of like the duty cycle. If I press the button once, I multiply by 2. If I press it again, I multiply by 2. If I press it again, I multiply by 2. Okay, well, there's math for that, and that is saying that the duty cycle is equal to, it's equal to some constant, okay, some constant, which for us was 2, and then raised to the number of button pushes, okay? And so if the number of button pushes is 0, 2 to the 0 is 1, the lowest number. If I press the button twice, then BP is 2, 2 to the 2 is 4, 2 to the 1 is 2. So that gives us the sort of 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 as the BP goes up. And then, of course, the other button makes BP go down. And so you see, this was kind of nice, but then this gives us like 7 button pushes. What if I wanted 10? Or what if I wanted 15? Well, let's do 10. Well, in that case, what I would say is still DC is equal to, the thing is though, now we're not going to use 2. We're going to use some constant A. The duty cycle is some constant A raised to the BP button push, and A is not 2, because we know if A is 2, we can only get 7 button pushes. So we are going to figure out what is the A that will give us 10 button pushes up and down. Does that make sense? Okay, so what do we need to know? We need to know what A is. Now you could just plug in A values and you could sit with trial and error until you got an A that when you raised it up and down, it worked properly. But instead of doing it by trial and error, it would be a little bit easier to do it with math. And so what do we know? Well, we know that I'm going to go ahead and make it 100 because we're going to round up a little bit. Even though it's 99, the math will be easier if we put it 100. So when there is a duty cycle of 100, that would equal to A to the how many button pushes did we want to get to 100? 10. Okay, so we have 100 is equal to A to the 10. Now we have to solve for what? We have to solve for A. Well, how would we solve for A? The problem is that A is raised to the 10th power, and we need to get rid of that 10th power. And we can do that by taking the logarithm of both sides. And so we could say log of 100 is equal to log of A raised to the 10. Now, what is the rule of logarithm? The rule of logarithm is you can take the exponent and put it out front. So what I can say is I can say log of 100 is equal to 10 times log of A. Now I'm trying to solve for log of A, and so what I could do is I could divide both sides by 10, and then I could say log of A is equal to log of 100 divided by 10. And therefore, log of A, now you guys that can't do logarithms in your heads, you can put this in the calculator. You can take log of what? 100. Log of 100 is 2, and divide by what? 10. And so what I know is log of A is equal to 0.2. Now, how do I get rid of the log? Because I want to find out what A is. I raise both sides to 10. And so I say 10 raised to the log A is equal to 10 to the 2, to the 0.2. Okay. Now, any number like 10 to the log A, the 10 and the log undo each other, and that just leaves us with A is equal to 10 raised to the 0.2 power. Right now, I know what A is. So let's come in and let me see if I can switch back over here to this view, and let's see if we can call up a calculator. Okay, let's see if we can call up a calculator. Now, I know some of you guys are getting very angry at me at this point. Some of you guys are getting very angry at me at this point. But I want you to see this math that they tried to teach you, that you didn't like. It actually allows you to solve problems like this. Like this would take forever for you to do this on your own, okay, by trial and error. And so now we just got to come in here. I've got a calculator, and what do I want? I want 10. And I want to raise it to the what power? The 0.2 power. And what is that number? That number is 1.849. It is 1.5849. Okay, 1.5849. Now let's see if this actually works. Okay, remember what we started with? Remember what we started with here? We say that the duty cycle is A, which is 1.5849 raised to the number of button pushes. Okay, it's A raised to the number of button pushes. So let's come back over here and let's see if this formula actually works now. So what we'll do is we'll come in, and what happens if we did 10 button pushes. So we are going to have, I'm going to need my keyboard again here. I'm going to need my keyboard. We are going to have, no, I guess I can do it here. We are going to have, what did we say? 1.5849 raised to the, how many button pushes? 10. Okay. And what does that equal? Duty cycle of 100. And then we'll just round it down to 99. Okay. Does that make sense? Is that pretty cool? Okay, what if we took 1.5849 and what if we raised it to the 1 button push? Then we get 1.5. Okay, so that's kind of at the low end. So we're going to go from 1 to 1.5, and then let's try that. And then now let's raise it. Let's raise it this time to the 2. Okay. And now we got 2.5. So you see it's climbing up just like it's supposed to, but it gets to the end point in 10 button clicks. You could do this math and you could say, I want to do it in 20 button clicks, or I want to do it in 50 button clicks. You could do it any way that you wanted to. You could do it any way that you wanted to, but you see, it allows you to precisely get exactly what you want here. Guys, tell me you hate me now and unsubscribe from the channel, or tell me that for the first time in my life, I have seen a practical problem that you solved using logarithms. Okay, so we're going to come back over here and logarithms and exponents. So we're going to nano this. And now what we do, we just come down here, and instead of saying DC is DC divided by 2, what we are going to say is, let's see, we are going to need to know sort of where we are in the button pushes. So we will start, since we started with DC equal 10, that would be all the way up. So we'll just call a B count. My B count, or what we called in the equation, was BP, so we'll call it BP for the number of button pushes. And since we start at full on, we should say that that is 10. Okay. And now what we do, we come down here, and then what we do is we say that if buttons stayed old, if we have a dim, then what that means is BP is equal to BP minus 1. Okay. And then here, what it will be is BP is equal to BP plus 1. And then what we need now is from BP, we need to calculate duty cycle. And what we know is duty cycle is going to be equal to what? It is going to be equal to our magic number 1.5849, like that. And then raised to the what? To the button push. Okay. And then same thing down here. What we will have is DC is equal to 1.5849, our magic number, raised to the button push. And this should go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and on the 10th one it should be maxed out, and then 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it should be at its dimmest level, and then if we go down again it should go off, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Could it really be that easy? Control X, yes, enter. I actually feel under a little bit of pressure here after taking you through all that math. I hope it really works, okay? And so we're going to Python 3 it, and boom, it comes on full blast. And now we're going to go down 1. It's, whoa, and it turned all the way off. You know what? Maybe that's not how you do a, power in Python. Could that be it? Okay, maybe it's times. You see, the problem is Excel uses the caret. Let's see if this works. Control X, yes. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to try that. Boom, dim event, dim down. Okay, now I'm going to go back to full brightness. Okay, so that's full brightness. Now watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it's off. Okay, now watch this. 1, 2, and it's not working on the way up. What did I do wrong? Okay, probably, let's see. I probably have just a little tad of a math problem there. Once it went off, it didn't want to come back. And so let's see what would have caused that. That shouldn't have gone negative. I'll tell you what we need to do is we just need to print out what we need to do here is we need to print out. Man, I have made a mess of this. How did I make such a mess out of that? Okay, so right here, what we want to do is let's just print out what our DC is, what our duty cycle is. Okay. I'm a little bit perplexed about what's happening there, but let's see. We'll run it, and this should help us see. So 99, that makes sense. And then I dim down, and it goes to 63. That makes sense. I go up. Okay, look at that. It's not going, the brightness, it isn't going up. Okay, so I must have a problem in there where I went the other way. NanoPython, my dim. Okay, so what? Okay. This sure looks right, doesn't it? It goes to the bright event, and oh, this is crazy land here, isn't it? BP is equal to BP plus 1. Control X, yes, enter. All right, so now I still like printing it out, so let's see. Okay, so 99. Okay, I go to 63. I go back to 99. Now let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, barely on 10. Okay, and now one more should take us off. Boom. And now watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and then one more, right? And there we are. And so we have this thing working. Now, why is it 11 instead of 10? Because I calculated it to go from 1 to 99 and from 99 to 1, and I gave it that extra button push that turned it off. And okay, so let's run it now, and let's see. Okay, we start at 99, and we go 1. Okay, 63, we go back up, it goes to 99. Now we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and now with the 10th button push, boom, we are at 1, and then if we go one more, we are off. Okay, now here we're at 1, and now we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we're back to the top. So boom, who's the magic man? I'm the magic man. Do you see how the math lets us go from 1 to 99 in exactly 10 steps? Let's do that again. We're at 99, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we're all the way to the lowest level of 1. Now if we go again, it'll go off, okay? But we were going to go from the low level 1 to the high level of 99 in 10 steps. Let's watch it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Shazam! That is just so darn neat. Okay, guys, do you hate me for going through that math? Or do you see that this is a very, very powerful tool to understand exponentials and logarithms? Because now when I go with each button click, I see a perceptible and smooth change in brightness. And the brightness change from 10 to 9 is the same as the brightness change from 2 to 1. And the brightness change from 3 to 4 is the same as the brightness change from 7 to 8. Okay, and we got it in exactly the number of button clicks that we wanted. We got it in 10 button clicks. Now, if you wanted it in 25 button clicks, you could do it again. Do the math again, putting in 25 as that parameter. Or you could do it in 3 button clicks. But you see now, who's the boss? You're the boss because you can do math. Okay, if you guys don't really understand the logarithms, just go over to Khan Academy and do their logarithm lesson. It's probably about 30 minutes and you can understand logarithms. Or if you guys really want me to do a lesson on logarithms, I could do a little math lesson for you guys on logarithms so that you could understand it. Let's see here. Let me come back over here if I can, and we will tune in. You can see that it's kind of getting to evening time here on the banks of the mighty Nile River. You guys love to see a fisherman. I see one way in the back there again. It's getting starting to get towards the evening time here, so we probably won't see too many fishermen. But guys, I hope you are having as much fun taking these lessons as I am making the lessons. And this has been some pretty high power stuff that we've learned. What have we learned? We've learned how to read from a GPIO pin. We've learned how to do a digital write to a GPIO pin. We have learned how to do pulse width modulation, where we can get sort of a simulated analog variable. We've learned how to do a value. We've learned how to do toggle switches. Man, we have learned how to do a lot of stuff. And even though this is pretty simple, just a dimmable LED, it is really, really very powerful because you could use the same technique to do something like control motor speed with push buttons. You know, there's all types of things that you could control with push buttons. And so this actually is a pretty important lesson. Hey, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys who are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your support and your encouragement that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping over there and hooking a brother up. Also, if you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. When you leave comments and thumbs up, it helps us with the old YouTube juice, which means more people will be exposed to this video. And that's very important because the world needs more people coding and doing engineering work, and fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.